Thank you. It's so great to be with you all tonight to recognize these amazing individuals. Like some of you, I was at the rally yesterday to say no to the Muslim ban. It was an incredible display of our community's power and resilience and our work with allies. But while we celebrate these accomplishments, we must also recognize what it takes for our community to get there. I am the daughter of a psychiatrist. I'm sure everyone's waiting for me to insert a joke here, but I decided not to because, frankly, it's much more comfortable to joke about mental health issues than it is to actually address them. I've learned that while the issues of mental health and challenges faced by my mom's patients were common topics around our dinner table growing up, that these are issues that are fraught with misconception and shame and sometimes even fear in our broader community. The roller coaster ride of the last year has only compounded generations of oppression and dehumanization that so many in our communities have faced. And let us not forget that our people are not just categories. We're not just Pakistani or Black or converts. We're also women who face domestic violence, sons who have lost parents, and young people struggling with debt. And all of this complexity, the everyday challenges and the systematic challenges, we need spaces to heal, spaces to be vulnerable, and to take a break. In the years that I've been able to support the incredible work of our Muslim, Arab, and South Asian communities in this country through my work at the Proteus Fund, I have seen this gap grow wider and wider. We are dealing with a very real sense of trauma and fear and uncertainty, and if not addressed, it has the potential to cripple our community's progress. Kameelah Rashad has been, up until now, one of our community's unsung heroes. I got to know her recently when she reached out to me about support of the Muslim Wellness Conference, Muslim Wellness Foundation's Black Muslim Psychology Conference in July. One aspect of the conference that really spoke to me was the focus on supporting Black imams in our community, the people who are on the front lines of dealing with so many challenges, but sometimes without training or support. Kameelah's conference offered them a space to learn from and support one another and to acquire tools and practices to help them in their work. And if attendance is any indication of how much this work is needed, the foundation saw a 100% increase in number of attendees this year, with almost 300 people benefiting in attendance. Kameelah, as a fellow mom, I want to recognize the important work that you're doing for our community, often at your own and your family's sacrifice. I hope this recognition is just the beginning of greater support and momentum for the critical work that you're doing. Congratulations.
Last July, I spoke with some of the college students that attended the Black Muslim Psychology Conference. With tears in their eyes and a quiver in their voices, they spoke to me about their struggles to not be afraid in the face of rising incidents of hate, to not be consumed by anger when addressing the racism present in their communities, to stand tall when their value was questioned because of their gender, and to remain committed to doing the difficult, often thankless, and even dangerous work of trying to create a better world. They wondered whether there was any place that they could fit and thrive, where their contributions would be encouraged and valued, and they had no one to ask their questions, nowhere to voice their insecurities, no one to go to for the support they needed. That is, until they met Kameelah. As a university chaplain and youth counselor to emerging leaders, Kameelah has, with her own two hands, given the next generation the tools they need to serve their communities while not losing themselves in the process. And she's been successful. Those students told me that the conference was the first space that they had ever been in that made them feel proud to be Black, proud to be Muslim, and didn't ask them to compromise one for the other. They felt inspired, they felt seen, they felt heard, they felt cared for. And that's what Kameelah does. She holds you up when you fear that you can no longer carry on. And it's not just emerging leaders that she cares for. Upon recognizing that our current Muslim leaders were ill-equipped to deal with issues related to mental health, Kameelah didn't just criticize them and move on. She adapted the mental health first aid training program for Muslim communities, and she trained those leaders herself. Last summer's conference even included an imams roundtable, as Shireen mentioned, in which dozens of imams from across the country came together to discuss their leadership and community challenges. It was an honest series of exchanges between leaders and their community members, unlike anything I'd ever seen. We were able to see past our positions and titles and just see each other as humans, each with a story and a set of skills and needs just like any other. Every person there left inspired. We felt seen. We felt heard. We felt cared for. We felt connected to our community and a deeper desire to serve them. That's what we mean when we call her a community builder. In leadership circles, it is known that when she enters into a conversation, the conversation evolves into something richer, more empathetic. If a debate is getting heated, she'll gently interject and ask the group to recognize that trauma is present in this space, so tread carefully. She gave us similar reminders at the conference when setting ground rules for the discussion, and once she was done, she asked all the imams in the room to stand up and follow her to a breakout room to prepare for the round table. And she walked off the stage, head held high, baby in hand, and one by one, every religious leader in the room, local and national, old and young, bearded and bearded, quickly stood up and followed her lead. That is what she does. She speaks and you listen. She leads with compassion, and because of that, you enthusiastically follow her lead. I am honored, along with Farhan Latif and Karim El-Hibri, to present the 2017 Community Builder Award to Kameelah Rashad.
Assalamu alaikum. In the early morning hours of November 9th, I'm sitting awake in bed, staring dumbfounded at my muted television, watching a seemingly endless number of CNN pundits trying to string together a coherent explanation of what had just occurred. At 3:58 a.m., my phone vibrates. It's an incoming text message from my then 13-year-old daughter, Layla. I refused to call him president. She had not slept. She was anxious to find out the results. So she did what any teenager would do. She checked Snapchat. I walked to her room and she's sobbing and scared. How could this happen? What are we gonna do and where are we gonna go now? I'm lying next to Layla, feeling helpless and angry, trying to comfort her as my own tears roll down my face. I'm haunted by the sound of my daughter crying in fear and disbelief, afraid in her own country. Psychologist Dr. Kenneth Hardy writes, racial oppression is a traumatic form of interpersonal violence which can lacerate the spirit, scar the soul, and puncture the psyche. Without a clear and descriptive language to describe this experience, those who suffer cannot coherently convey their pain, let alone heal. I often ponder the ways in which oppression causes us to shrink and hide and make ourselves palatable and non-threatening, while we try to soothe the many scars, lacerations, and other unnamed emotional wounds. I'm also 13 years old, a 7th grade student at a private, predominantly white Quaker school. I walk each morning about a mile to the number 3 train at Saratoga Avenue, riding from the Marcus Garvey Projects in Brownsville to the gorgeous brownstones and tree-lined streets of Park Slope. I developed this habit of talking to myself out loud because ringing in my ears is, why do you talk so white? Or, Kameelah, that's not how you pronounce that word. It's sword, not sword. I shrink in shame and confusion. I practice again on my way home, trying to hold onto the rhythm of my Brooklyn accent while secretly hoping to shred the sounds of my own tongue, which mark me as other in their eyes. But I am not other, because I'm a descendant of Hetty Franklin, my 4th great-grandmother, an enslaved woman who was born in 1853 on a plantation in Sumner County, Tennessee. Because my 3rd great-grandmother, Mary Edrington, was a seamstress at a colored orphanage in Evansville, Indiana in 1892. I am not other because my great-great-grandparents, Mama and Papa Baker, with roots in Tennessee and Kentucky, make a home for themselves and their children in the Midwest in the early 1900s. Because my grandfather, Ned Hicks, was born in the Bronx. He's the son of Caribbean immigrants from St. Kitts who arrived as young adults in 1920 seeking a better life. I'm certain that there are many in this room who have grappled with how to answer this question, but where are you really from? As if roots in this country simply defies logic and reason. These microaggressions are painful lacerations. There's no data or evidence which provide insight into the long-term impact of the traumatic stress we experience living in an Islamophobic climate of hostility, suspicion, surveillance, discrimination. We can't easily quantify the emotional toll of racism, white supremacy, and Islamophobia because it shows up in these millions of micro adjustments we make to soothe non-Muslims, to minimize their discomfort triggered by their unresolved biases and fears. However, in this intersectional world, there is wisdom, which can be gleaned from the lived reality of marginalized communities, communities which thrive despite oppressive conditions. At Muslim Wellness Foundation, we're working to create spaces in which Muslims can gain that clear and descriptive language to talk about experiences, strengths, challenges, and to heal by unburdening themselves of the weight of oppression and bigotry. One attendee at this year's Black Muslim Psychology Conference said, "This was the most affirming space I've ever been in. It's a beautiful gathering of people who are unapologetically Black, Muslim, and who are openly celebrating and loving each other. The sense of community is what will bring me back each year." Another attendee wrote, "As a Black, Indigenous, Latinx Muslim woman, life has been hard these past few years. Not that life in this country for all of those identities hasn't always been hard, but the constant exhaustion that we're now forced to carry is elevated. Black death and Black bodies are constantly splayed across our screens, videos showing rampant injustices in our systems of policing, law, and society. It has always been hard to be a minority, but somehow lately it's become even harder. But this weekend was so healing for me. I wish I could have done and seen more. Even though I didn't get to do it all, it was enough. You don't realize how much baggage you carry with you until someone says, 'Set that down for a minute.'" Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said over 1,400 years ago, "The example of the believers in their affection and mercy and compassion for each other is that of a body. When any limb aches, the whole body reacts with sleeplessness and fever. And he who eases the suffering or distress of his brother or sister from the distress of this world, God will ease for him or her difficulties from the sufferings of the hereafter." These words inspire me and motivate almost every aspect of the work I'm engaged in. It's undoubtedly challenging, but critical work. But I don't do it alone. Kameelah Rashad, my husband, he is my partner in life, in love, in protest, and in faith. I am thankful to God for a husband who shows admiration and passion and conviction for the work that I do. My beautiful children, Layla and Bilal and Izzy, they've been patient with me as I devote time and energy to school, work, and advocacy. Muslim Wellness board members, volunteers, friends, allies, and supporters, your faith in me and in this mission has been tremendous. My sincerest appreciation to El-Hibri Foundation for believing in and lifting up Muslim wellness, because being recognized by one's community is a very humbling and special honor, and I am deeply grateful for this moment. So I say, "Oh Allah, make me better than what they think of me, and forgive me for what they do not know about me, and do not take me to account for what they say about me." We are a resilient and faithful community, but in the process of healing, we must give ourselves permission to be vulnerable, to cry, to show and be shown empathy, compassion, and understanding. While we fight for peace, justice, and liberation in the world, may we also fight as rigorously for internal peace, emotional well-being, and spiritual freedom. Let us make dua for all of those who are struggling with mental health challenges, in need of nurturing safe spaces, a kind word or embrace. May Allah have mercy on the most vulnerable. May He give us all the courage to advocate on behalf of those who are also deserving, yet denied in their agency, privilege, and access to resources or knowledge. Thank you.